So today we're going to be talking about what to know about CRM. Like Sarah said, I'm Courtney Kearney, founder and owner of C. Kearney Consulting. I'm a wife, mom, and data-loving marketer. For those that were on, I do have a moody preteen starting online school today. Thank goodness Daddy is home. He is a ER nurse that works nights. So we have spent a good chunk of quarantining in our own home. I have an autoimmune condition, so I moved into our guest room. And after 3 months, I said, I'm done. I don't care if I get it. Like, I can't, I need my own bed back. I had no idea how much I would miss my own bed after 3 months. So he is home and awake, which is fantastic for him to deal with school. I also have a first grader going into first grade, which is super exciting. I have 15 years of experience, and I like to say I was born into the industry. My dad was a project manager for construction here in the DFW area. So I grew up going to the job site, and the love for the built community got into my blood at a very young age and never left. So I went off to Texas A&M and studied engineering. And after 2.5 years of AutoCAD and engineering labs, I said, I cannot sit behind a desk. Like, this is just not going to work for me. So I switched to communication and went into marketing for the AEC community so that I could communicate for the technical staff. Funny enough, I started working for a construction firm after 8th grade, and they said, you're young, you can type. So they stuck me in this closet and gave me binders and binders of information. So I sat there day after day in the summer, typing in all of this information. Well, fast forward to after college, I went back to work for that construction company and was a marketer, was filling out proposals and went, I recognize some of this information. Little did I know that back then on this crazy big PC, I think it was an Apple back then actually, I was entering data into their CRM, or what became their CRM. So I like to say that my experience with CRM goes all the way back to 8th grade. I am a Texas girl born and raised. I'm very involved in SMPS. I've been on the board for 8 years with the Fort Worth chapter and involved since I graduated 15 years ago. I would love to be connected with you on LinkedIn. After this, I will send, Sarah will send out the who registered and attended. I'll send you a link to our website to get the handouts, any links or information that I share in the presentation, and then also a link to connect with me. I do like to be interactive. Again, I don't like to sit behind a desk, so I want to definitely engage. We're gonna do that through polling software. There are 2 ways that you can participate today. You can text. So if you wanna go ahead and text C. Kearney 615 to the number 22333, you can do that. Or if you've got 2 monitors and you want to use your browser, you can go to pollev.com/ckearney615. Either way, the important part of it is ckearney615 so that you can get into our poll. That does lead me into my very first poll. So again, to participate, ckearney615, text that to 22333, or jump on pollev.com/ckearney615. So the first question I've got for you guys is, what words come to mind when you think of CRM? You can fire them off 1 word at a time. If you want the words to stick together, you can put a hyphen in between. Just don't put a space or it'll think that it's 2 different words. But what words come to mind when you think of CRM? Contacts, data repository, one source of truth. I love that one. Clunky, client information. Definitely client data and information. too robust. Relationships, touches, adoption, tracking, personal efficiency. I love these. These are fantastic. One-stop shop, opportunities. These are very good. Thank you for participating. I appreciate that. We're going to go ahead and go on. If anybody continues to add to this, that word cloud will grow, and then I will take a snapshot of it at the end of the presentation and have it in our slides for us. So the most common things that I hear when I ask people what CRM is that it's a technology tool. They think about the platform that they may or may not be using. I also get, oh, it's like the electronic Rolodex. It's a contact directory. Or if you're more business development focused, it's pursuit tracking or financial projections or backlog, project data storage. Someone said that one, data repository, and document automation if you are producing resumes or cut sheets from a CRM. Now for me, I definitely consider CRM to be managing and maintaining relationships. So typically CRM stands for client relationship management. And sometimes we forget that piece of it, that we are managing and maintaining those relationships. So for me, it's far more about process and people than it is about technology. Now, there is a technology component that can support your process and your people, but at the end of the day, it's all about winning and keeping our clients. This leads to the next poll question. I didn't see anybody new, so I won't recover this part. Do you currently have a CRM system, a tool, or a platform? A for yes, B for no. Very good. Looks like the majority do. And a third of us do not. All right, well, thank you for participating in that. And that gives me a good indicator. Now, this first part, we're going to talk about 5 reasons why you should have a CRM for those that do not have one. I'm also going to talk about evaluating a CRM system. For those that do have, for the 73% that do have a system, you can still get nuggets out of this as far as re-evaluating the reasons that you got the system in the first place. Remembering your why. We're going to talk about your why later. So using these next couple slides, even if you have a system, to re-engage with that system. So the 5 reasons why you should. Now there are many reasons, but these are the top 5. To maintain strong relationships with your clients. That is the key of any system. To track and strengthen your pursuits, projections, and backlog. To base important decisions off data and not speculation. That's huge, especially right now. Reportable business strategy so that you can see how you're doing with your strategy and your objectives, and are you meeting them? Where are you going with those? And then to capitalize data collection and automation. Now, if those are not enough reasons, here are some silver bullets. If you have multi-office, if you have more than one office, you absolutely need one single source of truth. But here's another caveat. I was hired way back when to work for an engineering firm because they had 14 offices across the country. They had the unfortunate situation where the Texas office and the Kansas office submitted a proposal to the same Oklahoma client, and the fees were different. So the CEO got a call from that client and said, hey, do we get to pick the lowest bidder amongst yourself? Like, how does that work? So you never want that to happen. So when you have multi-office, you want to capitalize on a CRM that will send out automations or send out workflow notifications so that everybody is in communication. When I was hired for that firm, I spent a good chunk of my first 90 days creating notifications based on geography so that everybody would know what the other offices were doing and that could never happen again. The other silver bullet is if you have a good chunk of your personnel that is about to retire, you want that information out of their head before they walk out that door. So having a place to put that as a central place so that everybody in the firm can access it. The other one is if you have had a recent project loss or a pain point that you can capitalize on, we as humans respond to pain far more than positive, which is unfortunate, but we can capitalize on that when we need to make initiatives for our company. So if you lost a pursuit, but you feel like you could make the argument that if we had a system that we were tracking, it wouldn't have fallen through the cracks, or we wouldn't have missed this deadline, or we wouldn't have missed this addendum, or whatever that looks like for you, definitely capitalize on that so that you can make the argument that you need a CRM system. And the last one is leadership frustration. So if you have leaders that are frustrated with updating the same resume, or when they look at a proposal and they say, so the project sheet said that the square footage was 100,000, but this resume says it's 1 million. And this resume says that it's 150,000 square feet. Like, which one is it? That is a good argument for a place that you can have a single source of truth that will automate those resumes or project sheets for you. Now on to evaluation. Once you've gotten the buy-in to have a system, evaluating CRM platforms. First, start with your needs. You want to know and be armed with what is specific to your firm and what you need. Do not try to walk into the car dealership that is CRM as an open book, because you will end up buying stuff that you do not need or will not ever use. So spend time first looking internal. Know your process, know what your needs are, know the why behind that. If you have a system already, so those 73% that said yes on our poll earlier, be sure to be in touch with your why. Why did we get the system in the first place? What were those selling points, or what did we go to the table with? What are your deal breaker features? Some of those are when we're hired to evaluate CRMs for firms. Sometimes when we interview leadership, it comes out that mobile is absolutely the top priority. Well, some CRM systems are not mobile focused. Others, like Salesforce, are mobile first. They code their CRM for the mobile platform, and then they go to the desktop version. What are your deal breakers and why? Digging into why do we need the mobile? Create your list of questions and criteria and then go searching. Some of the top hitters that we usually get is, does it have to have any sort of automation capabilities, whether that's for proposal purposes, for workflows, built specifically for the AEC industry. This is important. Now, there are some like Insightly or I've already mentioned Salesforce that are not geared for AEC that absolutely can be, but there is a heavy lift for customization to make them AEC friendly. And this is typically because our process is 3-part. We pursue the client and then we win the client, but it doesn't stop there. That's actually where the relationship begins. And we have this third piece that is all of our project data. Now, some of those relationships can be 18 months to 10 years to build a project or engineer a project or design a project. Looking at that third piece, that is where some of the non-AEC systems fall apart. Salesforce is very consumer driven. Once you sell that widget or that product, it ends the life cycle for your client. So that third piece, that project data, tends to drop off. Mobile first, I mentioned that one, or Outlook or other integrations. If you have to have it be able to integrate with Power BI, or you have to have it integrate with Outlook. Those are things that you want to be armed with walking into selecting a system for you. There is a link that hopefully I will be able to copy into the chat window. And again, I'll follow up with a link to our website that has some of this information. There is a document that has the full list of walking through evaluation. with all the different questions that are far more. There's several pages there that you can review and look at. Ultimately, at the end of the day, remember that a CRM platform needs to be in line with the main purpose of marketing and business development, which is winning and keeping our clients. Sometimes we can get really stuck in the bells and whistles of a system, and we have to keep remembering that the baseline is to keep those clients and win new clients. Now, of course, everybody asks me all the time, all right, Courtney, those are all good things, but who really is the biggest heavy hitters for our industry? Which platforms are really selected the most often? To answer this question, we did a survey. Now, it was 2 years ago. We need to redo it at this point. I feel like everybody's surveyed out, so we're definitely not going to redo it right now. So looking back at 2018, we had over 100 participants. The demographic was pretty across the board as far as firm size, service, and role in the company, although it was heavy on the marketing side. The results, 51% had Cosentral, 5 had Deltek Azura, 38 had Deltek Vision, which is now potentially Vantage Point if they've updated, 2% HubSpot, 5% in-house, 2% Insightly, 5% Dynamics, 1% Pipeline, 6% Salesforce. And I'm sure you have guessed it, this leads to our next poll, and that is, what CRM platform do you have if you have one? I have added Airtable, which wasn't there before. That one's popping up a lot more. I am curious, somebody has chosen other not listed. If you want to drop it into the chat window to let me know what platform you're using, I'm definitely interested. Oh, there's another one that is not listed. We've got a good amount on HubSpot. Oh, that's one I have not heard of, Cheryl. Dynamics. In-house. I always love taking over the in-house. Those get tricked out, and usually it ends up that only one person knows how to edit or change it or maintain it. Dynamics, 30%. If there was another person on the other, I would love to know what that system is that you guys are using, if you want to drop it into the chat window. Awesome. Well, thank you for participating. Again, if you answer after I click on, I'll update this chart after the presentation. So now we're going into preparation. Now, for those of you who already have a system, you can think of this as a re-implementation if you want, or just a way to re-energize or rejuvenate your existing system. I talked about knowing your firm's why, and that's really important, and how you intend to use the system. What are the specific benefits for your firm? Who will your champions be, or who are your champions? Identify the metrics that matter to your firm, and build and nurture a culture of change. We're going to dig into each one of these. I'm a huge Simon Sinek fan, and he put out a book, Find Your Why. If you haven't read it, definitely check it out. Or at the very least, watch his TED Talk about the golden circle and finding your why. So Simon talks about that we do not buy things or listen to people explain what they do with enthusiasm. What we do is we really buy things hook, line, and sinker when we understand why they do what they do, when that passion comes through. So when you have the why clearly defined for your CRM, that is where success comes from. When I was the CRM manager at 3 different companies, I spent time digging into our why, and every training started with that. So when I was in front of superintendents talking about, hey guys, I need you to fill in this for the CRM, or I need you to fill out this form because it populates our CRM, I would not dive into that first. I would talk about, this is why I need you to do this, and this is because our bonding capacity, thank you so much for whomever dropped in the link to the YouTube. I appreciate that. It's an edited version of Simon's chat. The why for that firm was bonding capacity. Their CEO fought all the time to be up to date on bonding capacity because that determined what projects they could or could not pursue. So the CRM had to be updated real time at all times so that he knew what was being utilized for the bonding capacity and what they were pursuing that would take up that bonding capacity. So when I stood in front of the superintendents, I would say, I need this information because the CEO is looking at it for this reason. And then they understood and they were bought in. If I just stood up there and said, I would really like you to fill out this form, ain't gonna happen. No, they're not gonna do it because I want them to. If they understand the bottom line of these widgets for our dashboard are really important because our leadership is making decisions based on who to keep, what workload we're gonna have, what capacity, layoffs, those get people's attention. And that's the why at the core of a CRM system. We maintain, I'm gonna let somebody in from the waiting room for a second. All right. Welcome, Jen.
You know what? I'm sorry. I was driving when you texted yesterday and I forgot to answer you. But yeah, can you just?
I'm going to go ahead and mute. I'm not sure if she intended that conversation to be ours. So looking at the why is really important. And I always suggest starting out any sort of training, or if you have a system and you feel like you're losing ground with your CRM system. I know when I took over one company, the brand or the platform that we were using, that name was pretty much like a curse word. And if you were like, I gotta go do what in that system, we really spent time to dig into the why for them so that we could get back to, hey, this is not a bad thing. This is good and this is why. Now, some of the common benefits: access to a central data point, one single source of truth, smart and categorized data. So what does that mean? Smart data is data that you can react to so that you can categorize things or do other things based on that data. For example, if you categorize all of your pursuits or projects by market, then you can start to do things like, what is our market share? What percentage of our business is made up by markets? How are each of our markets doing? I walk my clients through setting up dashboards and we drill down their business pipeline by by market on their dashboard so that they can look at the markets and say, you know what? We love education, but it is not helping us right now. It is not doing good. Or look at this, industrial is taking off. Really looking at those categories, what is that for you? Some of that might be contract type or delivery method. I came into one firm that was adamant that a lump sum was their strongest contract type. Once we categorized all their projects, it was the one that was least profitable for them. So we had to change that shift with data and say, actually, negotiated works a whole lot better for you from a profit standpoint. It might be, I don't know, easier for you to get lump sum for some reason, but that's not what's good for the bottom line. Now, efficiency and effectiveness. I understand that putting a CRM together is time consuming at the beginning. The idea of this is that at the beginning, it's high on people resources, and that's going to go down as you populate the CRM, as you automate. And then your efficiency and effectiveness is going to increase so that you are very inefficient and very ineffective when you do not have a CRM system, so that those two are shifting, and that at the end, when your CRM is populated and fully functioning, you are as efficient as you can be, and your people resource time has been reduced. Now that we've gone over some benefits, think about your firm and have those specific benefits for your firm so that when you talk about your CRM next, or when you go to pitch needing a CRM, you know how it will benefit your firm specifically. Now, I mentioned identifying champions. What that looks like is, I really feel like there are 4 areas of your company that you can find champions if you do not already have them. 1, the authority. Now, there are some people who might have said, we need a CRM, that are never going to log in, that are never ever going to look into the system themselves. That's fine. Use them wisely. I reported straight to the COO at that engineering firm that I mentioned. Now, he never logged in, but he was a huge proponent of having a CRM, and he would walk by the desk of those engineers and say, I know you're supposed to be in a CRM meeting, go. I know that you're supposed to be in this training, you need to go. He had the authority and they responded. So I would use him wisely to kick off said trainings or send emails on behalf of CRM updates. Now, did he understand what was in the CRM? Yes. Did he look at the reports that came out of that? Yes. Did he log in? No. Power users, those can be your cheerleaders. Those can be the people that absolutely use it, build it, populate it, and that they can create that enthusiasm for other users. Now, don't forget that there are some power users that might show up in different ways. So I mentioned presenting at that superintendent meeting. I had a superintendent that raised their hand and said, hey, basically what she's saying is if you want marketing off of your back, fill out the CRM because they don't call you all the time asking the same questions. I was like, okay, well, I don't think that that's how I would have marketed that or communicated it. But for him, that's what the CRM was. Funny enough that crotchety old superintendent was calling me 6 months later going, Courtney, I haven't heard from you. Don't you need something for me? It's like, no, you put it all in the CRM. I don't need anything for you. Well, is there anything I can help you with? I kind of miss talking to you. I kind of miss knowing what marketing is doing and what's coming. Okay, well, we can absolutely talk about your project. What innovations are you doing? What are you doing for your team? What's cool about your project? So it's just interesting that those power users can come from places that you least expect. The tech savvy people, those are great to have, whether it's IT or your hidden engineer that just loves the technology aspect of a CRM. And then your office influencers. One of the firms that I worked for that had many offices had an admin staff at that office, no matter the size. So our Dallas office had about 10 to 15 people in that office. And we had one receptionist. She knew what was going on with everybody. She knew everyone's schedule. She was the helper of everyone. And I spent time tapping into those 26 people across the company. And what I realized is that they were not being heard. They did not have a way to have something quantifiable on their review. It's hard to say, hey, you smiled 600 times out of the last year when I walked through that door. You get a raise. No, that's not helpful. You need something quantifiable. So I tied part of their review to the CRM system, and I let them participate in the data cleanup and the data hygiene of the system. That system had over 46,000 contacts to maintain, 35,000 company records. I could not do that on my own. But those office influencers absolutely could break it up, and each of them got 4,000. It was perfect. They maintained and updated it once a quarter. Also looking at those office influencers, they became the go-to person. I did not want to be that go-to person for a 1,000-person firm when they had how-to questions, but those people in the office, absolutely. I can keep 26 people updated on what's going on, how we use the system, and train them regularly. So definitely spend time thinking about where your champions can come from and where you can cultivate them. Creating a culture of change. I do this whole other presentation on change management with Chaz Ross Monroe out of Florida. This is that whole hour-long presentation boiled down to one slide. And that is go slow at the beginning to go fast. Be slow and methodical and intentional at the beginning, and I promise you it'll speed things up once you have things populated and well-oiled. Along the way, document why you're turning fields off, document why you're making the decisions you're making. I promise you a year from now, you'll go, I don't know, why did we turn that module off? I don't know, why did we make that decision? I don't remember. You don't want to redo or undo decisions that you made. So definitely document them along the way. Paying it forward, not only to yourself or to other employees, getting that information into the system. So as a marketer, from the beginning, I would have my CRM open on my second screen and my second monitor. And as I would get project data or information or changes for my proposals, I would immediately put it in. Now, I'm a data nerd, and I wanted to make the argument that that was faster than waiting until the end of a proposal, which, by the way, never happens. We're always on to the next deadline. Once you submit the proposal, we don't look at it again. Let's be real. But that argument was being made that it's easier to cull all of that out at the end. So I timed it. It took me less than 60 seconds when I got that square footage or that dollar amount or that staff team member to type it, click into the quick search, type the project name, click, copy, paste. Done, 60 seconds. Now, after the proposal is submitted, I go back to that email and I go, wait, who sent that to me? Why? Was that a real number, or was that a just for this proposal number? Was that, I knew all that at the moment I got the email, but now I have forgotten it. So then I have to go back to that person and say, what was this for again? What, was this a one-time? And it takes you 2 minutes or longer to figure that out or find it in the proposal to copy and paste it. I promise you, live with the CRM open on that second monitor. You will pay it forward to yourself. On the next proposal or a proposal a year from now, you'll go to that project and go, oh, thank goodness I spent the time to put the staff team in, or the MEP engineer and the contact for that. The other pay it forward is that actions are contagious. So when I became a marketing coordinator, I said, I'm going to use this piece of technology. Nobody else in the firm was, and I worked for a huge contractor. Now, 6 months later, the marketing coordinator out of Florida called me and said, hey, thank you so much for putting this data in this project. You just saved me hours trying to search it through plans or through the server. I didn't know how I was going to get this, but I went to Go Central and there it was. And I said, you're welcome. I did it for me, but you're welcome. Then a couple months later, the girl from Colorado called. Thank you so much. So those actions become contagious because then they start populating the projects. They want to pay it forward to themselves and pay it back because they went and found information that was there that was needed. Now, number 3, I feel like we fall short as an industry as a whole. We as marketers do not market ourselves, and it is a fallacy for what we do. Using our skills as marketers and having strategy for marketing what we're doing is huge. So being able to communicate and have a campaign built around your CRM is big. Those 46,000 contacts that I mentioned, we had an entire marketing campaign around cleaning house the first time. I did not want orphans in my system. I wanted every contact to have an owner. So someone at the firm owned that contact. Now, that's going to take me a long time to get 46,000 contacts owned by someone at the firm. But we communicated the why. We updated everybody. We had the little images of the person making the progress along the track. And then we had an ice cream party pre-COVID. We made our goal. There are no more orphans. We found a home for everyone. We communicated that, and it was helpful and it was successful because we had a campaign around the CRM. So now, phases of success of your implementation or of your CRM. Looking at process first, then what information you're going to capture, how you're going to automate it, and lastly, how you're going to get it out of the system or export it or use it externally. So looking at each piece of this, you can put a process together on a back of a napkin, on a piece of paper right now. It does not have to be a tricked out, color-coded flow chart. It does not have to be something, beautiful out of InDesign. It can just be something very quick. Looking at your process, ask yourself, where does the client relationship begin? How do we get project leads? Who gets those leads? Who's responsible for putting them in where? Once they get the lead, what do they do with it? Where are they supposed to put it? Are they supposed to give it to an admin who enters it in a CRM? Are they supposed to log in and enter it? Who needs to be notified once that is entered? Is there someone who needs to know that we have a new pursuit? All of that is starting that process with your client. And then looking at building that relationship. Do you have any monthly newsletters, quarterly newsletters? Do you have anything that continues to touch your clients? Does your business development have an expectation that they are touching your top 20 clients quarterly, monthly? What is that expectation? Do you have that documented so everybody knows? When you begin to prepare submittals, who is responsible for what piece of it? Who needs to be notified that you're submitting or starting proposals? Now, our ultimate goal is winning clients. So once you win that client, what happens? Is there a kickoff? What data needs to be collected? Does accounting need to be notified? One of the biggest things that happened when we went through this process, documenting it for one of our clients, it was in person, and I was doing the charrette of creating this process, and IT was in the room because my projector stopped while I was presenting. And I was discussing win notifications, and he goes, hey, do you think IT could get that? Well, sure, but can I ask you why? I never would have thought IT needed to get a win notification. And he said, well, our job trailers have to be set up. And there are so many times that project managers come into the IT department so mad that they don't have technology at their job trailer for a project that we had no idea existed. It would be great to know that we won a project so that we could ask that project manager, do you need anything out at the job site? And we can be proactive instead of reactive. Great, fantastic. That never would have happened if that process was not discussed or documented. Looking at who's responsible for what piece of data, who's responsible for actually marking it as a win or a loss. If it is a loss, who's responsible for the debrief? Who's responsible for tracking the explanation of the loss in the CRM? And again, who needs to be notified? Along the notification route, we went through the different pieces of how do we notify. I would make a suggestion, lesson learned, a little bit of heartache that I will save you from. If you do decide to do company-wide notifications, don't put the staff team on the notification. We made that mistake early on, and people were submitted on projects out of town that they didn't know that they were submitted on, and they didn't know that they would be going out of town for their next project. That's not the way that you want that to be announced, or them to find out that they will be traveling 2 hours to their next project starting in a couple months. So really thinking through what that win notification is and who needs to get that. Now, the final piece is hopefully you complete the project. You complete it in X amount of time in the future. Once that project is completed, what information needs to be captured? Along the process of the project, do you need to be collecting information at 25% complete? You need to be marketing that project. So when are you going to get the scope for the project sheet? When are you going to get the completion date so you know when to schedule project photography? Who's responsible for updating that? Who needs to capture that information, and who needs to be notified? And then hopefully you repeat the process with that client and they go back into your funnel. How are you keeping up with your clients, your past clients, so they become repeat clients, so that you continue to touch them on a regular basis? I suggest at least every 6 months, so that you are continuing to nurture that relationship. I had a call with a client yesterday, and when I asked that question, business development went, all of our existing clients stay with that project manager. And the project manager said, oh no, when a project's over, business development takes over. Okay, well, we have a huge problem, because you said you do it and they said you do it. No one's following up with past clients. That's a problem. Looking at your process and documenting it helps you see those gaps. So phase 2, looking at capturing the data. What data do you need along the process? When do you capture that start date or completion date? When do you capture the project team or the staff team so that you can populate the resume? Thinking through those pieces of data is critical, and who's responsible for getting it in or how. Looking at integrations. Is accounting capturing that information and you can pull it from there? Or do you have it and you can push it to accounting through an email so that they don't have to type? My favorite saying of all time, that which has been typed should never be typed again. Let's save people some time and they can copy and paste into accounting. The third process is looking at automation. What areas can we automate through notifications, through sending emails, through populating other data, pieces of data? And then finally, exporting. What are we going to do with the data now that we've captured it? What reports need to be populated? Who needs to get those reports? How often? In what format are we going to do that? Hopefully, once you've gone through these 4 steps, you will have a properly, successfully implemented system that now you can train on. So we're going to talk about how to reduce the training pain points that we often hear. So best practices while training is consistency. You've got to be consistent on your training, whether that's once a month. We have one client that does, well, pre-COVID, they did learning and libations with their operation technical staff. They would bring them in from the field and they would have 30 minutes of CRM training, and then they would have cocktails or beer or happy hour of some sort. They did learn that they had to do the learning first and then the libations because they were finding that they were repeating themselves if they did it the other way. Short and concise, focusing on, we do not need to do a one-on-one every month. We do not need to talk about every aspect of the system every time. It's short and concise, 15-minute increments, those sound bites that you can easily send out a little YouTube video of, this is how you update a contact. This is how you create an opportunity. These are the required fields and this is why. Whatever those short and concise sound bites are that you can get in front of your users. Making training specific to the users. You do not want to put a business development person in with the project manager or the engineer that you need technical information from. They are looking at 2 very different sets of data. They're using the system very differently. You also don't want to put leadership in with, thank you, Jen. Thank you for participating. Looking at the user and what they are doing it, you want it relevant for them. And then keeping it top of mind, whether that's sending out those communication pieces of, hey guys, congratulations, thanks to our CRM, we were able to accomplish XYZ. Or we were able to update, send out this email blast or this marketing campaign because we had every contact had an email address, whatever that is for your company. Now, long-term success. Once you've implemented, you've chosen a system, you've implemented it, how do we keep it up to date and successful? Deriving decisions by data is key. You've gone through a lot to capture the data, use it. Have your decisions based off of that data so that that is what's driving the why. The example that I gave about the CEO and the bonding capacity, he absolutely ran that report religiously. So come Monday morning when we had our sales meetings, there would be a business developer that comes in and he's hot to trot about an opportunity and I've got a hot lead, and he would stop the meeting and stop him and say, no, if it is not in the CRM, I do not want to hear about it. You do not get to talk about it. Because he knew that if he let him talk about it, it's not going to get in the system. Now, I could never do that. It would not work if I, as the administrator, said, oh, you don't get to talk about it. But he, as the leader, was making business decisions off of that information. So he knew it was critical that it had to be in the system and he had to hold them accountable. So that meant that my Monday mornings before that meeting was, very tumultuous with, oh, how do I do this? How do I enter this? Can you just do it for me? That's fine. At least it got in every week or every 2 weeks when we had that meeting. Now, making decisions off of data also gives you security for your business. So understanding that business intelligence yields business security. So what is BI? What is business intelligence? That is business analytics, data mining, data visualization, data tools, and data infrastructure. Basically, it sums it down to it is the data that is driving your decisions or should be driving your business decisions. When used correctly, business intelligence transforms the data into actionable insights that inform the company's strategy, the technical business or the tactical business development decisions. Some examples of these: running industry analysis. How are the specific markets that you're in, are they doing? How are they going to do coming out of COVID? How has COVID impacted those industries? Should you be changing markets? Should you putting more efforts into one market over the other? Market trends, competitive analysis, financial workload or projections, and forecasting. All of those are specific examples of using business intelligence to make those decisions. That data provides insight into a market that you should be in or target. It helps you feel in control as the world around us might not feel in control. If anybody gets the SMPS Marketer, I wrote an article this month in the August edition about business intelligence yielding security. I put a checklist in there. So here are 4 quick questions that you can see. How are we doing on our business intelligence? Is your data secure in a database, or is it trapped on servers? Is it trapped in the minds of employees? Yes, no. Is there a clear process to run regular audits on your data? Yes, no. Is there an automated verification system to find missing information? Does your firm make data-driven decisions? Yes, no. Now, if you answered yes to all of those, you can feel confident that your business intelligence is protected. If you said no to one or more of those, do not panic. You are not alone. You are in the majority. But each of those questions can be turned into actionable items. You can find a way to invest time into the line items that you said no to so that you can improve the security of your business intelligence. I always talk about data hygiene. Hygiene has meant something totally different now that we're in a pandemic. I always say distrust and verify. And that is because I want to know securely that the decisions that I am making based off of the data is fully populated. It is good and true data. So I schedule time to regularly run maintenance reports. Now, what are these audit and maintenance reports? I'm going to drop an article off of our website into the chat window that gives you many examples of what I am talking about, so that you can see some examples that might work best for you. Some of those examples are if you are running email campaigns, if you're sending out quarterly newsletters, a yearly, client appreciation email, then every contact in your CRM system better have an email address, or you are ignoring some clients or contacts. If you are sending mailers, Christmas cards, holiday cards, what have you, every contact better have an address. Now, you want to do that and look for that missing data on a regular basis, and not the night before you're trying to send the cards or the night before you're trying to send the email. So I would do it every Friday. I would shoot off an email and say, oh, you created a contact this week that didn't have an email. The reason I need it is because our quarterly newsletter goes out next week and I want that person to get that information, don't you? And then they would populate the email. Notice that in the email, I didn't just say, please put the email in there. I gave the why. I told them it was because we're sending valuable information that we want them to receive. Looking at your project data. If your resumes have project descriptions, every project needs to have a description. If your project sheets list the square footage, every project should have a square footage. Looking for that missing data is key on a regular basis. For those that are business development on the call, if you are looking at dashboards on your CRM, every dashboard should have a report to back it up. So that if you are looking at closeout, if you're looking at your hit rate, if you're looking at your projections, what if you're looking at fields of data that the cost is not filled out? Make sure that the cost is populated for every fee or every field on your opportunities. So you can run a quick report that says, oh, these two opportunities don't have the fee field. Now, I do things like, I want it to be over $100,000 because I would have users that put $1 in there. Yep, there's that field is populated. Well, no, it's not populated. $1 might as well not be populated. You can make your best guess. You know if it's $100,000 or $1 million. Just put it in the right ballpark. Looking at that will get your data hygiene to a spectacular place so that you can have confidence that when you run those reports to make business decisions based on data, that it's populated and not missing information. Now, for our last poll, for all those who hung on, thank you so much. Do you run regular maintenance reports on your data? Yes or no? Now that I'm looking at this question, I should have had a follow-up. Will you now run regular maintenance reports on your data? Hopefully all of you who have said no will be running regular maintenance reports on your data. So wrapping up our webinar, we covered how to evaluate a CRM, what a CRM system is, what managing the relationships of your clients is. We talked about the steps needed to take prior to implementation or the steps needed to re-engage with your implementation, to build support, to have a successful system, how to remove the sting from training, and how to be successful long-term. Hopefully you got some valuable tidbits out of today. If not, please feel free to reach out to me to ask questions, or I can clarify something or provide more information on a topic. I am available on all social media platforms, and there is my email address. Sarah, did you have anything to close us out?
No, I just wanted to thank you so much for joining us today, for presenting. I always love hearing you speak. It was just as good as it was at the conference last year. So thank you again. I really appreciate it. And I hope you were all able to get some great information out of her topics today. I know we're coming at our time at 10 o'clock, so I don't want to be disrespectful of anybody else. But if you did have any questions, please feel free to reach out to Courtney. And also, we will be posting this event up on our website, so you all can review it later or share it with your company if you so desire. So
thank you so much. And I did see a question about the slides. We will follow up with an email from us to a link directly to our website with all the information covered today, including the slides.
All right. Well, thank you again. I appreciate you, Courtney.
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you all for attending. Have a great day.
Yep. See you guys.